Hey, what's up, guys? Kool-Aid here, and today I have some more War Thunder for you. Today I just want to go over some basics, real basic things to kind of help newer players, or maybe players that have tried the game a little bit but couldn't really get the flow of it, or couldn't get the hang of it. Just some tips to make it a little bit easier on you. I want to say right away that I am not an expert at this game. Again, I want to make sure you guys know that because I'm not trying to portray myself as an amazing War Thunder pilot or anything like that. The stuff we're going to go over today is just real beginner's tips to help new players kind of get a better hang of the game and make it less frustrating for them. This is stuff that's, I've just kind of learned through playing arcade. Again, I haven't really gotten into historical battles or anything yet. All pretty much arcade tips I'm going to give you. Some of this will carry over, some of it won't. But like I said, just real general stuff to help you ease into the game, I should say. So, first of all, the main thing that you want to know when you're starting off is what the strengths and weaknesses of the plane you're flying. Basically, when you start, everybody's going to start in a biplane, and there's kind of a catch-22 with that because when you first start a game like this, your first instinct is probably to just get in a plane and start dogfighting instantly. Well, with the biplanes they give you at the beginning, you can kind of do that. That's what they're made for. They're the best turning planes in the game, basically. They're real slow. You're not going to be doing a whole lot of booming and zooming or energy fighting or anything in those planes. They're more for what you would think, if you're new to flying games. Just get them and start dogfighting. However, as you work your way through the planes and start getting better planes, faster planes, you're not going to be able to do this. And if you start dissecting the categories of planes, you'll have like bombers, medium bombers, fighters, heavy fighters, and attackers, things like that. And you'll start realizing the distinction between those. But even in a category just as fighters, there can be two completely different types of plane. Now, it's not as pronounced in arcade mode as it would be in real historical battles, but if you're in a BF-109, which is a fighter, and you're in a Japanese Zero, which is another just a fighter, they will handle completely different. So knowing the strengths and weaknesses of your exact plane that you're using at that time is a huge part of the game. It'll help you put yourself in the right situations where you want to be. And it'll contribute so much to your success that's one of the biggest things you need to learn early on. Another thing that kind of goes hand in hand with knowing your plane is actually knowing the other planes as well. Now, obviously, there are a lot of planes in this game, and you're going to kind of want to pay attention to what is what as you level up. Now, when you're first starting, I wouldn't expect you to know and memorize all the planes and what they do or whatever. But as you play more and more, you're going to start learning what the enemy planes are, and you'll learn this through unlocking them as well. So pay attention to what you're attacking. That's another huge part of the game. If you're attacking a bomber, you're going to approach it completely different than if you were attacking a fighter or whatnot. And even within those categories, you're going to approach a BF-109 completely different than you would approach a Zero. And I use those two as examples because they are basically polar opposites within the fighter category itself. So pay attention to what you're flying, pay attention to what the enemy is flying. Another big thing you want to pay attention to is your altitude. Altitude is kind of king in this game. Again, your first instinct when you start playing, if you're not used to playing games like this, is to get in that biplane and just start dogfighting. Now, in the biplanes, it's not really a big deal. It's kind of what you do in those. But once you start getting to the more high-speed planes, like I mentioned before, you're not going to be able to do that, and altitude is going to give you an advantage over other planes. Especially if you're in a boom and zoomer or energy plane, which I haven't really talked about too much. But almost any time you're higher than another plane, you have an advantage over that plane. And the reason basically is because altitude is speed. The fastest way to pick up speed in an airplane is to dive. If you're below another plane, you can't, you're going to lose speed trying to climb and catch it, and you're going to be at a disadvantage. So pay attention to your altitude. It's really big. You'll notice that at the beginning of every game I play, I climb. I want to be one of the highest planes, if not the highest plane in the sky. That way I can swoop down on my targets and just kind of pick. It's almost, I can kind of compare it to being a sniper, or picking off. Being a predator, basically, you're gonna pick off the weakest prey, or the prey that you want. You're gonna be able to pick your targets that much easier. So pay attention to your altitude. Once you start paying attention to that and then learning the advantages of your plane as well as the other planes and knowing what targets to pick, that's when the game really starts coming into place, and that's when I started enjoying the game a lot more, as opposed to just trying to dogfight everything, which is what I did when I first started playing. Another tip, and this might sound silly, but I didn't realize how important it was when I first started playing, was to use your flaps. You hit F, you have flaps that open up, and these help you turn. They create drag. They're going to slow you down. You don't want to use them all the time, but if you're in a turn, especially if you're turning with an enemy plane and trying to get behind it or trying to just avoid its fire, use your flaps. They're really important. Some planes that are not so good at turning become pretty decent turners with their flaps open. So you're gonna really want to stay busy on the F button. Obviously, when the time is right. If you're climbing, if you're diving, if you're trying to gain speed, you're obviously not going to be using your flaps. But when you're trying to turn, when you're trying to do sharp turns, use your flaps. It sounds really simple, but honestly, when I first started for like a week, I rarely ever used my flaps, and that's just my own stupidity and not knowing anything about airplanes, which I'm sure some of you guys, like me, are going to be in the same boat. So use your flaps. It's real easy. Once you get used to it, it'll become just second nature for you. Next, I want to talk about shooting just a little bit, but not too much, because there's so many different circumstances where shooting is going to differ. But I would suggest not really opening fire and unloading on a plane unless you're within half a kilometer of it. Now, there are certain circumstances where you're going to want to shoot further than that. For instance, if a plane is trying to get away from you, and it's like, say it's at 0.75 kilometers and it's flying in a straight line, you can still get really good shots off or hits from that distance. But I would say, for the most part, try to hold your fire until you get a little bit better shot. You don't want to blow through your ammo and then, while you are in good range, be reloading. So just keep that in mind. Also, the circle is not always where your shots are going to land. If they are further away, it seems like you need to lead a little bit past the circle. It's something that you'll get used to just by firing a little bit more, or by playing the game, I should say. Also, as far as firing goes, you're going to want to fire in short bursts unless you have a dead-on shot. You'll learn this as well as you play, but one thing I learned early on is, unless you have that really, really good shot, don't blow through your ammo again. Just use those short bursts. It will also differ a little bit too, depending on what plane you're flying, because 37mm cannon you're going to use completely different than 50 cal machine gun, or any type of machine gun, basically. So that's just something you're going to learn as you play. I can't really explain every type of weapon and how you're going to want to use it. But I think, as a general rule of thumb, try to save your ammo till you're within half a kilometer, and the whole fire in short burst thing is typically a good rule of thumb as well. But anyways, guys, these are just some very broad tips. I hope these might help new players if you're watching these videos and haven't yet played the game, or if you're maybe struggling with the game a little bit. Because I'll be honest, I was pretty bad at this game for a while. It took me a while to get decent, and I still don't think I'm all that good at it. I do well in arcade, but I have a feeling once I go to historical battles, I'm probably going to get eaten alive for a little bit again. But anyways, I hope this helped you guys. If you have any more questions, I will definitely try to help you. Leave them in the comment section. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. I will talk to you all later.